be on, they would 10-4, you know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for being here today for the Finance and Administrative Committee meeting on today's date, which is what? October 4th, which you just said. October 4th, and today we're going to be talking about our social service agency grants, our transient lodging tax grants, and the city manager evaluation timeline. But we are first going to get started with a roll call.
Jessica Andrade. Present. Teresa Nielsen.
Here.
Chaz Jones.
Here. And I welcome a motion to approve the minutes. Okay, so we have a motion made by Councilor Andrade and seconded by Councilor Nielsen. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and thank you. So minutes passed. And so here we have, we're going to be going over the social service agency grants first, and then we'll be talking about the transit non-tax grants, and then this and this the social service grants are a combination of two different types. One are our social service agencies, and then another is utility assistance funding, and those are separate concepts. Mike, did you want to give us any overview, or did you want me to do? Whatever.
It's entirely up to you, Mr. Mayor. I can go through it quickly, if you like.
Yeah, and if you can just go through it real quick. You don't need to like discuss the specifics of each of the applicants. But
Yeah, I'll just go through the process we went through, and then we can go through the details. Earlier, this process we do each year is a social service agency funding and the utility assistant funding and the transient lodging taxes. Go through a 4-step process. And when we create the budget in May, that's May, June, something like, when it's finally created, we allocate money from the state shared revenues for the social service, split 35% of the state shared revenues, which is $38,602 for this third year. Aside $10,000 for the utility assistance funding, and $5,000 right now is what we get to Benton County for our transient lodging tax. We go through a 4-step process. First thing is we set the budget, the 38,000, the 10,000, and that. Then the second step in after we create the budget, as usually around July 1st or so, we send out the RFP. This year we delayed it a little bit. Went out August 1st and went out for August 31st for the social services. We 6 responses, and for the utility received 2, and for the Benton County we received 3. We have 1 new one for the transient lodging taxes. Third step is right where we are right now. You all are going to go over the application you've already reviewed and discuss that. Then you're going to adopt or approve a certain amount of money for each recipient or each applicant. We will take that to council Monday, Chelsea, right? And so that'll be the 4th step.
No, we are doing that council on October 23rd. October.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just coming up. Okay. Never mind. So anyway, that will be the 4th step when it goes to council. And that's a quick overview of the process we went through to come up with the applications that are in front of you for consideration.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I know that each year, the committee has gone through these, and so we do it in different ways, different times. We all can, I think it's helpful to talk about our philosophy of why we think we should, how we might allocate funds. We don't have to dive into each of the proposals individually unless we really feel like that's necessary, if the committee feels like that's necessary. Um, I'm happy to kind of talk about the process that I've kind of gone through and at least how I'm thinking about things. And then, but I'm happy to hear about both how you both are thinking about these things as well. In terms, I'm only going to discuss the social service agency funds first. So focusing on that conversation. As I went through the applications, in my mind, I was looking at diplomas, community services, and they have this freezer that seems to need repair. I don't know if it's completely non-functional or not right now, but that seems like it was a important thing that maybe we can justify funding the entirety of that project. So in my mind, then I looked at that. I was going to fund that entire project, and I subtracted that from the total amount that we have for recommended funding. I then looked at what the average was that would be remaining over the rest of the applicants, and I saw that there were 2 applicants that were under that average. And so in my mind, that's like, okay, what if we just fund those 2 entirely? And then I looked at what's the remaining dollar amount. And then we still had 3 applicants. And then well, we could just divide it equally amongst those 3. So that was the process that I went through to come up with some recommendations on that one, but I'm just happy to hear what you guys are thinking too.
I didn't get a chance to refine my numbers when we got the final application. There was an issue with the packets, and I didn't get that final application till this morning. And so I only got to review it recently, so I don't have my full numbers yet, but that is definitely similar process.
I not only went over the numbers, but I also went over the financial packets that
Yep.
they supplied and
Yeah,
I looked at the final number at the, the income at the end of the year and such. And then I am personally involved as a volunteer in various organizations. So I know firsthand as a liaison for PYAC and involved with Habitat for Humanity and such, the need
Yep.
for those organizations. And having also interacted with Maxivity and such. So what I did, if I was understanding correctly, the amount requested was over what we have.
Yeah.
So I thought about 30% over what we had. Is that more or
Yeah,
less?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so about 30% more. So then what I did was everyone got less than what they needed based on that 30%, but some that were really critically needed, like I think PYC, their numbers are increasing. And so the need for the freezer, the need to provide food for those that have food insecurity. That's I'm sorry, PCS, what did I say?
UIC.
Oh, sorry, PCS, sorry, PCS. Whereas I just think that's a real necessity. And then also with Benton Habitat for Humanity, I don't know if you know anything about interest rates and what is going on with housing costs and lumber costs and construction costs. We have families that have been waiting a very, very long time. And if we could do something to help that organization, to help families transition into that, I would strongly encourage that. So mine are a little bit, I took 30% off of some of them. And then it ended up kind of being a little different numbers on each one. So not actually getting what they had requested, but it's possible for us to give them less than request because their requests are more than what we have.
Yeah, I definitely recommend some at less, some at what they asked for,
Right.
and then
So I have numbers. So I don't know how we want to do
Yeah.
this.
So I can just throw out the numbers that I had and we can discuss them.
Yeah.
But I put Philomath Community Services at 12,000. Because ABC and Maxtivity asked for less than what I consider to be their share. I just put them at their full ask for 5,000 at ABC and 4,800 at Maxtivity. Then I simply divided the remaining dollars equally amongst the other three. And I can, so 5,600 for each of Benton Habitat for Humanity, PYAC, and Strengthening Rural Families. That was the numbers that I came up with, and it seemed that it was kind of a simple calculation, but I like kind of keeping things simple.
And it is okay when I mention what I have.
Yep.
The ABC house, although they did great work, their bottom line net income was almost $500,000 over costs. And that's a good little nest egg. And when we're talking about $36,000 isn't much in comparison. So I did diminish their request on that one based on that fact. So I have down 3,500 for ABC, which is still substantial. I have 11,302, I believe, for Habitat for Humanity, 2,400 for Max City, which is double what they got last year. And Paloma Community Services, I have 10,000. PYAC is 6,400. And Strengthening Rural Families, I think they ended up at, give me a second. Is it 48 or something, whatever the left is over, whatever's left over after that goes to, I want to say 48, but maybe 5,000.
Okay. That's cool. That's good. You want to talk about?
Yeah.
Did you fund dementia and Meals on Wheels with yours? Okay.
No,
just wanna make sure.
Ask. I didn't apply. I didn't offer
I
any.
just want to
funding.
make sure I get the right
Mhm.
setup. Okay, thank you.
To clarify, from what I understood, that was about $500,000 what they had. Whereas their budget ends up being 0.
You talking about ABC house?
Yeah,
So there's no surplus, is what you're saying?
correct.
That is their income. That expenses.
What they budget for.
Their budget. If-
Oh, is that right?
Sorry, I.
Okay, you just think that. Okay. I'll add that up again.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, it just looking, so they're. Because what they've budgeted is like their net income would be 0. I guess,
Oh, right. The P&L says they had a surplus of 425.
I understand that they have that, but they budgeted it, and I think that, the fact that they said that they don't, what was it, their government grants, they're something about not being eligible or not getting. Let's see. I can't remember what it was.
In some ways, and Mike, you would know this more, but the P&L says they had 425K over, like, as a net income.
Mhm.
That doesn't really tell us how much they have in their bank account, right? Because we don't know what the situation was before the year one.
It'll give you a very good idea of what's in their bank account. About in your own books, your personal books. Whatever you have left over, that's your money and that's your cash. But, yeah, there could be some other key factors that I don't see.
It would be like the city, like we have capital improvement projects that we're planning
Right,
for.
exactly. But I don't think they gave us that information. So, yeah, we could get exactly what's going on with that, but you know, you're all on the right track. That's the first thing I saw. I saw that they had that. And really, I don't understand their budgeting because it doesn't look like they even put it in their budget. You know, that's a carry forward. It's just like with us, when you're moving the budget, when I give you your beginning fund balance, that's coming from the P&L from the prior year. So, I did see that. And so it's probably y'all are on the right track.
That's good. We didn't really get into what the thought process.
Well, was under the impression that they are in need. Regardless of that money. Because of what I had stated, and then also, like I said, there was something about them not being eligible for certain grants, and I can't find it.
Do you think that? It came up to, do you have?
Yes, but I guess what I'm saying is, so I was thinking to fund them, like you had said,
Okay.
along with Maxtivity. And then I was thinking of 10,000 to PCS and 10,000 to Benton Habitat for Humanity, also really important projects. And like it's not necessarily wanting to fund the whole thing, the whole request for PCS. Because they were already planning on fundraising a bit, and I feel like PCS is. Well, I guess basically PCS and Benton Habitat for Humanity just not really wanting to go over the 10,000 mark, you know. Since we have all these other organizations, and then this is where I didn't quite get my math figured out.
So you're still working out PYAC and strengthening rural families.
Not, or yes, sorry.
Okay, so was it 10,000 to PCS? Is that what you said?
That's what you
Yeah.
said.
You're at 29,800.
Yes.
And
4,800 for Max Living, is that what?
that's, yeah. So, and then I just, that's really helpful context, and you can still work out your math. But just talking about, and I don't think any of us are off base. So we could go with any one of our proposals and it'd be great. One thing that I think about for Benton Habitat for Humanity is that project is going to benefit one family. And last year, they stopped, or this year, they basically have stopped working between April and last week on this project. And so like, it's just taking so long. It's been like a year and a half since they've gotten the second house up. And so, and I know that they've had some changes in staffing and leadership, and I struggle with the idea that we're giving $10,000 to benefit one single family, and we already did 5,600 last year, 5,800 last year, and it's still one family. Whereas PCS helps lots of families, and ABC House benefits a bunch of families. And then the Maxtivity thing, yeah, I know you recommend cutting theirs. I'm like, well, it's scholarships for kids. You know, that's a whole bunch of people. That I love the idea of benefiting a bunch of people with our money. That's why I struggle with Habitat. So I'll just give you that context. And again, none of us are wrong.
And the Strengthening Rural Families, they do pretty amazing things for us. And we're talking about a large number of families.
Yeah.
So to diminish theirs by, well, if they're asking 2,000 more this time than last.
In my proposal, cut them by $900.
Okay, and mine was, it gave them an increase of 500.
Actually, oh no, I'm sorry.
I'm talking about what we gave them before. I'm talking about not what they're requesting, but the previous donation. Does that make sense? I'm looking at the previous donation, what we gave them in the past, and then comparing to what we're willing to give them this time.
I
So
proposed
mine
giving-
was,
I guess I proposed 1,100 over what they asked,
okay,
or what they asked for, or what we gave them last year. So
I have a question
Yeah.
about strengthening rural families. Does it show for their budget a surplus of 51,000? Because that's also part of what I was trying to
Yeah.
take into consideration.
like, I don't like the idea of looking at that too much, because what if they have plans for those funds that require, like, we're gonna build a building, or they're gonna buy a building, or they're going to do a food, or they're gonna
Yeah.
project plan?
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just, for context, just one little piece in the trying to figure things out.
Yeah, so I just completely discount that, because I just think we don't have the right context.
Well,
So, yeah,
this in multiple.
yeah, so why don't we come to an agreement? I think that we're pretty close on some of them,
Yeah.
so let's just talk about one with community services.
Well, say, I think all, or never mind, I guess you cut ABC and max activity.
We'll just talk about the one, and then we'll know how much we have left.
Okay.
And then so, hearing what all this is said, do we feel strongly about 10,000 or 12,000? I propose 12, you both propose 10. Have either of you changed?
I'll split the difference, 11.
I'm fine with any answer.
Okay, well, I go with 11 if that's what we needed.
Okay. Great. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to talk about habitat for humanity. That's the next biggest ask. You had suggested 11,300, Teresa. Jessica suggested 10,000, and I had suggested 5,600.
Correct. Average would be.
Well, I don't have to go with the average. I'm basing on what everybody's heard. Does anybody feel differently than what they have suggested? Do they?
I think they do much more than just, I mean, yes, it is for that one project, but I think in my dealings with Habitat, there is definitely a ripple effect with that. I think it affects, although really literally housing for one family, but I think its influence is much greater than that. With the children of that family, with others who see that success and know that they too can have that dream of homeownership, which is really escaping a lot of us today and the way things are. So I would like to, well, 58 is what we gave them last time. They requested 15. Could we,
Could I provide
yes,
one small piece of context?
yes,
Last year was the first year Habitat for Humanity submitted an application and they asked for $30,000 for the SDCs for the house that's under construction. Just to provide background, and we gave them the 5861.
so could we,
Or if this is, maybe it's something else that'd be easy. What about ABC House? Like that, they're asking for a lower amount. I suggested 5. Jessica suggested 5. You suggested 35.
correct?
We can agree on that one relatively easily.
I still think 5.
I feel like 5 makes sense for them too. I feel like they do benefits a lot of families. You okay?
I'll do 4. I think there are other places, I think there are local things that is, they do a substantial amount of fundraising, and I'm not negating the great things they do, which is when you're dealing with only one pot of money and that has to be divided.
Yeah.
I'm still serious about having enough to do other things.
Last year we had them, one thing that wasn't in this application packet was how many families are they helping in Wilmouth? I know they do help.
Yes.
I think last year was 100.
Yeah,
At least 20.
that's what they said.
They provide services to Benton County, and so they listed both numbers of like hundreds of children from Benton County, estimated 20 or so.
They provide services directly to our police department.
Have cookies?
When it comes to intervening.
Oh, for children, right?
I'll go for 5. You've convinced me. I will do 5.
But then the next one I'm hoping is a little bit easy, might be activity, because I had suggested 4,800. You suggested 4,800, you suggested 2,400.
And that's 4 times what we gave them last time.
Yep. Last time, I will give you a little bit of context. Last time, they have struggled in the past, how to write a grant proposal. And so last year, I remember thinking, like, let's just do this because they don't know how to write a grant proposal. Let's give them the 1,200 just to give them some hope for the future. And now they picked up their game a bit more. And now they're successful. So I think in the past and prior years, like they weren't applying. So But I remember Max, Eric Neiman, so it wasn't the first year we gave him money. I remember Eric Neiman, the very first year they applied, so that was. Anyway. Again, there's no wrong answer here, but.
I will only do 4,800 for them, considering, like you said, scholarships, and then also providing food to the children. And I'm assuming adults or whoever else comes in at that time.
They are a local nonprofit, which I didn't like.
All right, I will succumb to the 48.
Meals, okay, so. I think those are like the ones that I feel like were kind of easy-ish. PYAC, Strengthening Rural Families, Philomath Community Services, Maxtivity. Are all based in Philomath, and then Benton Habitat is specifically doing a project in Philomath, which I like. And so now,
We're at 17,802 left.
and so now we have, I think it makes sense to talk about. I think it makes sense to talk about Habitat next. If you're okay with that, or if you, so if we have 17 and change left. You both suggested, well, you suggested 11.3, you suggested 10. And I suggested a lot less. So do either of you have a? I don't feel strong on this one.
8,000.
8,000 works for me.
Okay. And now how much do we have left? 9,800.
Right.
Are we okay with just dividing that amongst PYAC and Strengthening Rural Families? Because, yeah,
Looks like you have pretty even numbers there.
Just kind of, but I think your numbers were gonna be.
I think it's 4,901.
4,901 of each.
okay. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Are we all happy with that? Okay. Then I'll move that we make a recommendation to the city council that we submit 5,000, or that we recommend that we fund ABC House at $5,000. That we fund Benton Habitat for Humanity for $8,000. Maxtivity at $4,800. Philomath Community Services at $11,000. PYAC at $4,901. Strengthening Rural Families at $4,901. For a total of $38,602. Thank you, that is, and. Oh, I'll move. Do I have a second?
Making a motion.
I did make a motion, and then we have a second. Thank you, Jessica, and then all in favor, please raise your hands, guys. And I apologize, in the past, we had Council Lehman and Council Lowe both on, and they both had to recuse themselves. And so we actually didn't vote on that, and so we just recommended. But there's no wrong answer there. Great things by offering them what we can. All that. Next, we have utility funding requests from both services to our Philomath community. The total sum of what they've asked for is less than what we have. And to make it easy, I would just recommend that we divide what we have by 2 and give it to both of them. 5,175 each.
Does everybody understand what these two organizations do to benefit the community in Philomath in particular?
To some degree.
And you could definitely educate us.
Mike, do you want to give that overview?
These provide utility assistance for the low income people. We use it quite a bit. And so we funded this using the money that we give them, giving it back to us through that way to let the people, survive their crisis at that time. So, they both do it, they both interact together. When they did the presentation last year, they both were here and they both backed each other.
Yep.
So it's a very good organization. So splitting it, I mean, that's awesome.
Agree. And giving them all that we can. I think that's a great idea. Adding them once.
I want to throw out one, I think both of these organizations have done this for over 25 years for the city.
I didn't realize that.
Since I was doing utility billing,
Wow.
I relied on these two organizations.
Yeah.
And I had somebody I needed to send somewhere for help.
They're very good people.
Yeah. Does anyone have any recommendation other than the 5,175? I'll move that the committee recommend city council offer Vina Moses $5,175 and We Care $5,175 for a subtotal, for a grand total of $10,350 from our water and sewer funds.
Second that.
I made that motion. Counselor Nielsen seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Wonderful. Next is, so this is the first year that we've actually also done the transit lodging tax, I believe, at the same time.
Think together.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
And so we have a total of $5,253 available to us. And we have a total of $7,000 in asks from Benton County Historical Society, Philomath Chamber of Commerce, and the Philomath Frolic and Rodeo. Does anyone have any suggestions?
Besides funding the first two fully and the last one with the remainder.
That's what I had suggested as well. Teresa, do you have any strong feelings about it?
I was gonna just divide it into thirds and do.
I don't like the idea of, personally, I don't like the idea of offering more than someone asked for, because sometimes they can't actually spend it, they don't have a plan to spend it, which can be a burden. In some cases.
Would that be more than what they'd ask for?
Yeah, so 1,000,
It's 1733,
What do we, okay, then I'm not reading this right then. So how much is there to be distributed?
5,000.
5,253.
Right. Oh, on a different form. Oh. Form, okay.
And we don't have to give it all away, we can just keep some of it. Mike had suggested saving half of it back.
That's right. 500.
That's what I have done in this.
So the form is wrong.
I thought it was.
That's why I was lost. I'm a little bit lost. Oh. Okay. Yay. Mhm. I was right. Sorry.
Oh,
No, for once, mark that day.
here.
Right.
Oh, got it. Okay,
The first. we got that one.
okay, well, let's reset
Thank
my understanding. So we have $2,500 to spend.
So we could do it in thirds and have it be,
I would be happy.
sorry, whatever. Yeah, yeah, something like that, around 8. I was, in my notes was thirds to do about a third for each organization.
I would like to give more to the Historical Society. I think that their plan to provide better accessibility is really important, and that yeah, I would like to maybe 750. And then
Well, 1/3 piece would be $833 too.
Yeah.
Right?
25.
Yeah, then I guess I would like to give them more, and then I don't. I don't have one. Cause it's really not much when you split them into thirds.
I'm okay with splitting it at thirds. You know, the $200 difference between 1,000 and 800 isn't that great.
Mhm.
Or the 170.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Yeah, I'm fine with thirds.
Okay,
Let's do it 1/3.
yes. Teresa. Or what was the math there? 832,
33.33, let's.
833, 834.
34.
Okay, so based upon Jessica's preferences, we'll go ahead and give 830, I'll make a motion that we give 834 to Benton County Historical Society. 833 to the Philomath Chamber of Commerce. And 833 to Philomath Frolic and Rodeo, and I hope I don't raise any feathers there, but
Second that. Okay,
and that would be coming from the general fund. Okay, so we have a motion on the table, Counselor, or by myself and Counselor Nielsen seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. It's great to be able to give away money all the time, but then I know it's hard, but I appreciate your thoughts, and I really think it's like the process is important to go through. So next, we're going to be discussing the city manager's annual evaluation timeline and process. It's about that time of year, sorry, 19. Chelsea, do you want to walk us through it?
Yes, so Krista prepared an agenda item summary. So as laid out. Yeah. Which is in the beginning of the city manager evaluation, as well as questions for that information. And so just looking to either forward this on to the city council. It will be in the packet next Monday on the night, as is, or if you had adjustments that you make. So let me know that and I'll adjust that.
Sure. So the idea would be that we would fill out this form starting sometime between now and then it would be you.
Chris doing his evaluation.
Yes.
Is that?
Right.
So then you can use it as part of your evaluation.
Yeah, and so then we'd have that and then we would return that on November 6th.
yeah, fifth, it says.
So he would be doing that before the council meeting.
Sorry, I was using this one.
By the way. This is what-
Oh,
I'll look at it.
that's different.
overnight.
Okay.
Yeah, there may be some adjustments. I know there were some timing issues.
Yeah, state for fifth or sixth or whatever.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
paperwork did-
on here.
yes, and then the sixth on the other.
They would get back on by the 5th and then we have it, discuss it on November 13th council meeting. Any suggestion there?
Yeah, I was disappointed to still not see the edits that we had made a couple years ago. And then I had asked, I think at our first committee meeting for Chris to go back and make those edits. And then so, I wrote down the ones that I'm pretty sure I remember correctly, but there very well could be more. And, or I may have misremembered it. So I don't know if it's a matter of changing them without a vote, since we had voted to make those changes, or if we just have to motion and vote.
Did you vote on it at the last meeting? You discussed it or like last year?
So yeah, the board of the meeting would be helpful because I have notes. so-
I don't have the precise.
Like, but was it
date.
recently?
It was the
Discussed
last, so I brought it up the last time we did the city manager evaluation. Again, I also.
But that's not when you voted on it. You voted on.
We
it
would have,
previously.
it would have been the previous year.
Okay, so last year.
November of 2022.
She's talking about the
Hold
one
on,
this thing out.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, 22, I think you did.
So I think, I don't recall. Yeah, and,
I can write them, or I can say them right now.
yeah.
It's just a couple words here and there.
Do they match up with the questions that are currently in the packet?
Is, yeah, so it's
Okay.
like 2.1, it made the argument that. Like. You shouldn't strive for fairness, you should exhibit fairness, honesty, and ethical behavior in personal and professional relationships and activities. All of these are like you do a thing, except there's a couple where it's like. Strives for, and I just. So that was one of them. The other one is 2.3. It says handles interpersonal problems without arousing antagonism, and I had said, I'm pretty sure I had said exhibiting antagonism because. You can't control other people's emotions, but you can control your own. And yeah, so that
Do
kind
you have any other, just go ahead and go through your suggested changes, and then we can talk about them.
3.1. The last one, it says strives to minimize risk to the city. Narrative strives and just minimizes risk to the city. And then there was one on 4.3 at the very end. I want to say Counselor Lehman. 4.3. I'm pretty sure Counselor Lehman had made the suggestion, and I don't remember what his words were, but I didn't like the whole, like, the city manager educates the counselors, like a one-way street. It's supposed to be collaboratively working, and so I think Counselor Lehman had said something like works collaboratively with council members or something to that effect.
So collaborates with counselors on the council manager form of government. Wait,
It was just like, I don't remember how it was worded, but it was getting,
maybe we can just offer the gist of it now.
yeah, and the gist is that you work collaboratively and that it's not a dictatorship of this person educates the counselors.
Be more specific. So maybe the language could be works collaboratively with counselors on the city manager form of government and division of roles. That sound like that would be okay?
Sure, I guess I don't think it's necessary to have on the counselor manager form of government. The division.
Want to give me the specific suggestion?
What I had said works collaboratively with council members.
Just
But I-
total, that's a sentence right there. Okay.
See, but I do think that there's an understanding of responsibilities that managers have in regards to council and the responsibilities of council. So I think there is some some learning to be done.
Yep.
With, so I'm not so confident that I'm willing to take that away.
I do think it's important to mention the council manager form of government. And I do think that it's important that there is a learning process, right? I know I had it wrong when I first started.
Right.
I do think the intent of it is it's based in like ICMA and trying to make sure that. I hear what you're saying because
Mhm.
maybe the way that they've written it, and it probably came right out of ICMA. But there is that, you know, there is that, like, a new counselor comes in, the city manager, that is part of their job is to educate you on how that all works.
Mhm.
But I do think maybe even if you could leave that, but collaboration is probably a better term than what you're saying, which sounds like it's more dictating that instead of collaborating on education.
Yeah.
Because that's a two-way street and it's a conversation.
Agreed.
I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I like That works.
And yeah, it's fine to keep the last part. I didn't necessarily see the need for it, but it's, if that's what people want, then that's cool.
What about works collaboratively with and educates counselors on council. I don't, maybe it's just a separate sentence.
What do you have, Chelsea?
Collaborates and educates. Collaborates with council and educates. I think, you know, that you don't necessarily have to say that you're doing something to the council. The
Right.
whole subject is that manager council relationship, so it really is just educates or is a resource on the council manager form of government and division of roles. So I don't know that you have to put that at your dictating that. I think that's what you're.
Collaboratively educates.
Collaboratively, works collaboratively with council members within the council manager form of government and the division of roles.
Don't feel about that.
I think that the word educate, I think is helpful because there is an education there.
How about provides counselors with education on the council manager form of government?
Was that what it was? Then yeah.
I'm just throwing that out
Okay.
there that it is.
Providing
If you are a new counselor, and you don't know what that form of government is, then it should be the city manager's responsibility to provide you with
Yes.
the education on that.
Yes. And provides council with education on the city manager, council manager form of government and division of roles. That sounds a little bit more like providing resources.
Have to
Yes.
go find
Right.
that
Right.
information
Right.
somewhere else. It should be your city manager who.
Softer. Like that.
Is there any other suggested that you had?
I think, so one of the, not with the wordings, although I don't know if I do see anything about working collaboratively with. council members, but I might have, I mean, a lot of it is kind of implied, so I don't know. But, one of my issues is that, that I've talked about before as well, has been that there's too much in each of nearly all of the little boxes. And that I feel like my scores become artificially low or artificially high because they wash each other out. Like I'll grade on like 1 point for the first sentence, another point for the second sentence and the third and then like average them out. And then like there's no real meaningful score associated with that box because like some of the things are, you know, like, oh yeah, excellent, but this one, like could use some work and
Right,
like you're not gonna see that.
and historically, when I first started, this form was so long. And that's why we did a giant revision of it, to make it a lot smaller.
It took
It
hours,
took a long time,
hours.
I remember.
even before you were around.
I remember getting the one of the condensed versions. But I do know that like I don't feel like my scores in particular are a fair representation of what the city manager does, and that I don't know if that means deleting some of these sentences, or if it means having like a box per sentence and just being able to like quickly check off. Because for me, it takes way more time to be like, okay, for this sentence and this sentence and this, like, how do I feel about each of these things, and then have to, you know, try to compile it to get some sort of score from that one, whereas instead I could say, oh, first sentence, easy, second sentence, easy, like, and then I don't have to average them out. And I don't know if, and I know that there were some potential limitations with like was it Survey Monkey? But have we considered doing something like Google Forms, or if there are like other kinds of programs that'll make it easier to be able to do that?
Like I said, I think that previously we've chosen to move away from that much detail to try to make it more manageable. So I don't know unless we had direction from the full council that we would want to do that. I don't know that everybody would. I just know there's a reason that we went away from that because it was so burdensome. And I know that when I mean, you sound like you're taking it, you do your evaluation in the way that works for you. It's not the same way that I do it. But the way that I do it works for me, and I've been pretty happy with it myself. Go ahead.
Would it be a benefit for Jessica to mention that to the council at the council meeting? So that you
Yeah,
have,
for sure.
because then you
Absolutely.
have everyone who's doing
Yeah.
it in their different ways, and
Mhm.
you may find that there are more people that say, let's
For sure.
split this up.
That's true. The one
Because you
council,
probably don't wanna make necessarily a
Yeah.
decision on that aspect of it.
Another thought is to look at the box at the end of each section where it says, please provide any specific examples that support the rating above. And maybe support isn't it support or impact your ratings about.
Yeah.
and I would use that, personally, I would use that form to highlight the things where I thought they were either exceptional or things that need work. Like, I'm not gonna talk about the average things or anything. I think you're doing great at this, but you really could work better on it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if you remember from previous evaluations, but like I have done that and found it, yeah, I guess it just. Yeah, it's fine. I can talk about it at the council meeting.
I think that's probably the best way. I know, 'cause as an educator, we have to synthesize a lot of information because with so many students, we can't have 50 check boxes on just one phase of their education. So we have to look at many facets and then come up with a overall decision on how are they doing in this one concept. But I understand what you're saying about giving more in-depth the specific things without having to do that culmination of overall groupings.
Yeah.
But I think it is a decision that should be council-wide.
Yes, I
So
agree.
let's, how would we do that, Tess? Could we say that, the changes that Jessica has?
Yeah, I think we can, are you okay with changes?
I am,
I'm okay with
I'm good with them too.
just the change that you made, I think that we can incorporate those.
I do too.
And then, so my suggestion would be that we ask the staff to do that, and then that we recommend presenting this to council, and at that time, I would then voice any of the concerns that you're just mentioning.
Yeah, and give the others a chance to, and
Yeah.
the council a chance to speak as well. I'd like to hear what the rest of the council has to say. Agreed. So that we can
Yeah.
kind of come to some kind of agreement.
Yeah, maybe at that time that they say, split it up. That's add some additional questions. Okay. Well,
But in that
Make that
case. So in that case, then. Will Chris have already gone through his process?
yes,
He
So it
so
would be for the next year. probably.
it probably would be, yeah, a recommendation.
Should be a recommendation, yeah.
Moving forward, that, yeah. is-
But these changes, the word changes that Jessica.
Yes.
Hopefully they can be done.
It's always good after the evaluation process is completed to do a,
Critique.
A debrief.
yeah.
And usually what has happened in the past was that the council then sent it back to us to rework the evaluation process if they felt like it needed to be worked.
Gotcha.
Are we okay with all that? Okay, and so it looks like there's no recommended motion, but we can forward this evaluation on the council. To the council with specific changes that we made. Okay. That's all we have. Anything else? All right, with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much for being here.